So I always tell my clients to build in time for the distractions, build in time for the procrastination so that you can actually set realistic goals and or timelines. One of the things that I do, Hirsch, is I plan on Sundays, right? So I wipe my whiteboard and I start mapping out all the things that I have going on for the week so that I know what I need to accomplish, right? And if I've booked myself in for too many meetings or too many deliverables, it gives me time to space things out and reach out to folks and say, hey, you know what? I know I committed to getting you this on Tuesday. Is it okay if I get it to you on Thursday?
What if the truth came in a gel cap and we could just pop it in our mouths and forget about it? Well, it doesn't, and we can't. But we can laugh in the face of reality while plotting our survival. Welcome to the Truth Tastes Funny podcast. I am your host, Hirsch Redpun, and if my guests can handle the truth, so can you. Open wide, folks. Here it comes. With me today on Truth Tastes Funny is Tina Collura. Tina is an award-winning productivity and business development coach. She leverages 14 plus years of entrepreneurial expertise to drive businesses from surviving to thriving, which is what we talk about on this show, not just surviving, but thriving in a chaotic world. She helps business owners develop growth modules that'll help them secure deals and triples entrepreneurs' income swiftly. And she's a really dynamic speaker. She does a lot of keynotes. She shares her insights globally. And she's not just a consultant, but a dedicated strategic partner who's really empowering entrepreneurs on their path to success. And we're really happy to have her here on Truth Tastes Funny. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Hirsch. It's great to be here. And Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. It will still be early in the year when our audience hears this. And in fact, that's a good place to start because I think at the beginning of the year, people are trying to get themselves organized, get their heads together, get their plan together. What are some of the common, challenges that you see people facing at the start of the year?
So if they don't have a solid plan already set out, people are tend to just keep scrambling and chasing, what's current or what's happening. And I feel like when you're constantly just chasing what's shiny and bright at this time, you're not doing yourself a service by setting out a clearly defined plan and then working towards achieving those goals. So if you're constantly just chasing after the shiny object or chasing after the current fad or what's happening now, you're likely not to be as successful as you would be if you had a clearly defined plan. It's like going on a road trip, right? If you're not clear on, the destination and the route you're going to take to get there, you're going to probably take some detours and you're probably going to, get lost along the way. So it's good to have a clearly defined plan, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. And, we hear a lot about how fast the world is moving. And I think I'm interested to get your thoughts on this because it feels like we're encouraged almost to have shiny object syndrome. Like we're constantly told we don't have the attention span. We can't do this. Everything's changing minute to minute. Who knows what's going to happen from one minute to the next? So we almost can't fault ourselves for being easily distracted. But what's your take on that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, society is actually set up to distract us. Social media is set up to distract us. Like we are constantly being distracted. And so that's why it's so important to be focused. And I find that in this day and age, especially with entrepreneurs and business owners, we're easily distracted because we have so many different amazing ideas running around in our head that it takes us away from what we need to be focusing on right now. So that the key success habit I always tell my clients is how to be focused and how to bring yourself back into focus. One of the techniques that I tell my clients to do is have a pen and paper by their desk, and on the title should be later. So when you get a smart idea, just write it on the pad. So that way you're acknowledging it, you're addressing it, you're not ignoring it, but you know that you could take care of that later,
Yeah.
right? And then bring yourself back into focus.
That's great because, we could have a to-do list, but there's no, you know, we could say we're going to have a to-do list every day, but nobody gets through their to-do list if they think they're going to get everything done today. Do some of us overestimate our ability to get things done?
Absolutely. We all start out with the greatest of intentions,
Yeah.
and sometimes we overcommit, sometimes we overbook ourselves, and like I said, the intentions are good, but you need to be realistic with yourself, and realistic with planning for the what if scenarios, because those what if scenarios are going to come up. And again, you have to be honest with yourself. You are going to procrastinate, you are going to get distracted. So I always tell my clients to build in time for the distractions, build in time for the procrastination, so that you can actually set realistic goals and or timelines. One of the things that I do, Hirsch, is I plan on Sundays, right? So I wipe my whiteboard and I start mapping out all the things that I have going on for the week, so that I know what I need to accomplish, right? And if I've booked myself in for too many meetings or too many deliverables, it gives me time to space things out and reach out to folks and say, hey, you know what? I know I committed to getting you this on Tuesday. Is it okay if I get it to you on Thursday? No harm in asking. And so that way you're spreading your deliverables out, and you're being realistic with yourself.
Well, I like that you said that about being realistic with yourself because I think a lot of it comes from pressure that we put on ourselves, and then we try to focus when, we're constantly feeling like it's not enough or we're not doing enough. Do you ever come up against this feeling that taking a break or a minute is somehow a loss, because nothing's happening? It's like, I know I go through this where I'm like, okay, I just want to sit on the couch with the dogs and just chill out for 15 minutes. But I sometimes have a feeling like, well, those 15 minutes should be more productive. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And yes, it does happen to me. So it happens to all of us, because you know what? We want to indulge in the thing that brings us the most pleasure at that time. And usually work and or deliverables is not always that. So, it's good to give yourself the downtime, but you also need to make sure that you are doing what you need to do. And I always say first this, then that, right? Get something done, and then reward yourself with the distraction of your choice, whether that's your dogs, whether that's your kids, whether that's social media. But buckle down, be disciplined, because that's what it really comes down to. It's disciplining ourselves to get the work done in a reasonable time frame, so then that way we can enjoy the things that we really love to do. Prime example, last week I had 4 presentation decks that I needed to deliver in 2 days. And the kids were home. It was break, it
Yeah.
was Christmas break. And so I was spending a lot of time with them and not doing my work. And what ended up happening, Hirsch, I woke up at 4:30 in the morning on Friday and got 2 presentation decks done by 10 a.m. Right?
Yeah.
Because I knew that I made the choice. I made the choice to spend time with my kids, knowing that I needed to do some work, but I made that choice.
Yeah, and I do that a lot with early mornings where I'm like, well, now earn the privilege of going back to sleep or hanging out with the kids or whatever it might be, because I feel like I have that sense of accomplishment already under my belt, you know?
Yes.
And I think that's really important. And I also think that sometimes we don't take the aerial view of things either, right? We sometimes get mired in the to-dos and the details. How much time should we spend on the big picture?
It's a great question. What I like to do with my clients is before we actually start planning for the year to come, I like to do a look back, right? So I have them do a year in review of what they accomplished in the last 11 months, if we're going from January to November, let's say. So that might take a little bit of time. And then from there, we start acknowledging, what worked, what didn't work, what could we do better. So it might, depending on what the big dream is, it could be a couple of hours, it could be a half day, it could be broken out into a few different strategy sessions. But I want to say you want to start off the year knowing exactly what you're doing in January. I always a breaking things down kind of person. So I love taking people's big ideas, breaking them down into smaller, more manageable tasks so that they could start seeing the results.
Yeah.
Because if the vision is too big, people can just give up too easily and say, "Oh my God, that's so big." But when it's broken down, it's digestible, it's
Yeah.
manageable, it's attainable, right?
Well, speaking of things that are can be overwhelming, you mentioned, all right, so you would allow yourself a little time on social media or other kinds of distractions. Sometimes events in the world are overbearing and consuming, and we have feel like we have maybe a choice. Do we shut everything out and just don't even think about the outside world beyond our work or family or whatever it is? Or do we open those windows, periodically? It's hard. It's hard because we don't control the occurrences and the events of the larger world, but they are going to affect us. How do
Yeah.
we juggle that stuff when we're trying to stay on track?
Yeah. So there are times, Hirsch, where you got to have the blinders on, right? And cut out the noise because, with anything, we can get easily distracted. It could you could hear one thing or you could see something that's going on in the world and it could deter you from, doing what you need to do. Prime example is the economy, right? A couple of years ago, when they were saying the economy's crashing, it's going to crash, people are going to be more frugal on where they spend their money. And, as a coach, as a consultant, I'm like, oh, you know what? Might have to lower my prices or might have to change my strategy. But the way I see it is, yeah, you could change your pricing and you could change your strategy, but it doesn't change the fact that you're out there helping people.
Right.
It doesn't change the mission. It might change the strategy slightly, but it doesn't necessarily have to change the mission and the vision that you're on. So it's good to hear, it's good to be aware of what is going on, but have the control, focus on what you have control over, I guess is the point I want to make.
Yeah.
So take what you're hearing, take what you're seeing, but then make sure that you're focusing on the span of your control and nothing
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, that's good advice because, when I started this podcast and, we were coming out of the pandemic, but I think that I don't know if as a world we really have any surer footing now than we had then. We're not dealing with the same issues. We're dealing with other issues, but the sense of chaos of living in a chaotic world is still there. But if
Mm-hmm.
we admit to ourselves, that we don't have control over certain things, we can influence things in our corner of the world, and that comes down to what we choose to do with our, skills and our talents. I think that that's good advice. So what are some things that you're working on this year? What are some fun undertakings that you have planned for your 2025?
Ooh, well, my plan is to have a speaking opportunity booked every month. So I have two so far in January, working on one for Feb and March now so far, and one might actually be across the pond in Europe. So I'm excited about that for International Women's Day. And I'm looking to write my first full book, and it's going to be 8 steps to see your business grow, something around that line. I am looking to launch my next course. So I'm looking to do a course on how to see your leads grow. So 50 leads in 5 days. So might be a bit of a challenge that I'm going to be offering my clients. And I'm also doing master classes every month. So starting in January, I have one coming up end of January on future visioning, right? How to replan, reorganize, and restart for the year. So those are just a few of the things.
Do some of your client, I mean, I'm not surprised that you have a plethora of things because you're organized and intentional. But do clients talk to you often about their legacy plans?
Yes, yes. I do have a few clients, and so some of them are looking at joining different elite groups in order to leave a legacy, and they're mainly the clients that don't have kids, and
Hmm.
they're like, who am I going to leave this? How am I going to leave this earth, and how are people going to know my name and know what I've done for my community or for my country? And so a lot of them are, buying wings or donating to different organizations of hospitals or museums, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And it's important. I mean, that stuff sneaks up on us. I have a
Hmm.
lot of clients in the personal branding space that, even the younger ones that want to kind of keep the horizon in mind. Well, I can't, because no doubt you help people scale their businesses and, get involved in that. Well, there's a point at which, it scales beyond their involvement
Yeah.
and, what becomes of it? What's the end game? So to kind of circle back around to the point at which people are getting more productive starting a business. There's more entrepreneurs out there now than ever before. Do you want to share a tip or a piece of advice for people who are perhaps just starting a business?
Yeah. So for those of you who are just out there starting your journey, my first tip of advice is don't be afraid to fail forward, because there are going to be a lot of opportunities where they're not going to work out the way that you want them to or the way that you think that they're going to. But failing forward is all about learning as you are trying. Nothing is going to be perfect. Nothing in this world is perfect. So don't wait for it to be perfect to start. That's another thing that I've been praised for. I'm not afraid to, when I get an idea, I just jump and I just go. And if it doesn't turn out well, at least I'm out there. At least I'm trying. At least people are seeing, hearing me and getting to know, like, and trust me. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not perfect. Be authentic is another tip I have for folks, because you don't have to be, well educated. If you have a mission, if you have a vision, if you have a good message and you can help people go from A to Z, focus on that. That's always been what I pride myself on.
Yeah,
So
we well said. We rarely emerge from an experience saying I'm sorry I tried.
yeah, right.
Maybe in that moment, maybe in a first moment of disappointment or something, but very rarely do we fault ourselves or say we would have been better off having not tried. So, and lastly, where can people find you? I know we'll have stuff in the show notes, but just if they're listening.
Yeah, absolutely. They can go to my website, Hirsch. It is seeyourselfgrow.com. So spell it out, yourselfgrow.com, or you can find me on all the social media platforms as See Yourself Grow with Tina or Tina Collura.
Thanks so much, Tina. It's been wonderful having you on, and I wish you the most exciting of years.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome. Enjoy.
Thanks so much for tuning into Truth Tastes Funny. If you enjoyed the experience, please leave a 5-star review and share this podcast with your friends.